Great. I don't want to keep people waiting too long. I'm sure more people will continue to roll in, but we're just going to start with my introduction, so no big deal if you missed it. Yeah, I'm going to say a little bit about myself and why we're here, but then I'm going to hand it over to our advisory board, who you'll hear a lot more from tonight. So my name is Evan Townsend. I am the interim executive director at Voices for the Truth. I grew up on the convention grounds in Clever, Missouri, with Selkie, if you didn't gather that from Selkie's earlier comment. And if you've been following some of the events at the Clever, Missouri Convention Ground, I'm very proud of the stance my entire family has taken to right some wrongs and protect the most vulnerable in our community. So I left the convention grounds at 18, went to the University of Missouri to study journalism with a particular intent to try and understand what the truth actually is, with a goal to start investigating and to learn for myself. And it was sort of through that process and some later experiences that I pivoted to education with a goal less to educate myself and more to understand how we can educate one another, and to be a part of a community that works together to learn and grow in one direction. And so I ended up getting my master's in education at Harvard, where I work now on a number of education-related initiatives. I'm particularly working on courses in the social sciences. Some of the topics that I research and co-create curriculum for include power abuse and power misuse and how to correct it, community organizing, other topics related to moral leadership. So several things that have become all too relevant for me in the last year. A little bit about why we're here. So this is in large part to offer some information about one of the newer services that we're offering that we're very excited to share with you. But part of it is a celebration because we're celebrating our anniversary, and I'll tell you a little bit more about Voices in a moment. But I also want to acknowledge what it feels like to have a celebration right now, at least for me, which is that it seems a little out of place, truthfully, because we have spent the last year in a crisis, and for many people on this call, it's a lot longer. And we're all here because we recognize to some degree the irrevocable harm that's been caused and the pain that people have experienced. And so it feels strange, in part, to have a celebration when that pain is still out there. But the truth is that that pain will always be there. And it is that harm that's been done can never be undone. But I don't see it as the work of Voices to undo that pain. Because in some ways, what all of us are doing just by being here on this call is actually stepping further into it. We're acknowledging it, we're engaging it, and we're not actually avoiding it. We're not getting rid of it. So why are we here? Why are you here, and why is the Voices team here? I'd like to think it's all for the same reason, which is for hope. We're not fighting for the absence of that pain, we're fighting for the presence of hope, the presence of joy, and reasons to continue moving forward. So we're just incredibly grateful that you're here, because it's you all, and for me, it's the rest of the team on this call that you're looking at right now. That's the hope that keeps us moving forward and continuing this work, even though at times, as we all know, it's challenging. But we're going to keep fighting for that hope. So I'm going to hand it over to Selkie. I'll just call you first.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Like Evan said, thank you so much for joining us. I am Selkie Hope, and I'm very nervous. So I'm just saying that out loud just to acknowledge that I know that I am nervous. And authenticity, yay. So I'm Selkie Hope. Like Evan said, I am Evan's sibling, and we grew up in Oklahoma. When I was a teenager, we moved to the Clever Convention Grounds in Missouri. Um, my route to leaving meetings was actually very odd. I actually ended up marrying an outsider. Um, and part of that reasoning was if I marry an outsider who doesn't let me go to meetings, then I won't get excommunicated and cut off from my family. So I had a very long journey of like unpacking a lot of those things. I also have my education and history is also in education. And I am a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. Um, and I have so many years of therapy under my belt and am still on that healing journey. And last year when the Dean Brewer letter came out, I just like felt in my heart immediately like I wanted to show up and help create support systems for victim survivors, where they can get the support and resources that they deserve. Basically, I wanted to create what I needed. And I also recognize that part of creating support systems for victim survivors includes empowering community members to make choices that are supportive of victim survivors and empower those community members to make choices that protect other vulnerable people from becoming victim survivors. So that's kind of how I got to the point where I got to co-found Voices with Jeannie and Abby, and I'm going to hand it off to Jeannie and let her introduce herself.
Thank you, Selkie. Thank you, Evan. Thank you, everybody, for being here with us to celebrate with us. Our amazing, like, we've done it. We've opened our hotline. Yeah, so I'm Jeannie McElroy. I'm sixth generation, born and raised, professing on one side, fourth generation on the other, raised in California. I experienced child sexual abuse in the belief system from an elder and family member. And let's see, when I was 21, a week before I turned 21, I went in the work. I was in the work for 11 years in Oregon and South Idaho, and had a lot of experiences there. And then I left the work and got married, was married for about 11 years. I have a son, a 9-year-old son, and the majority of my family are still professing. About 5 years ago, I had all the things, you know. I had an amazing career. I'm a radiologic technologist, which means I take x-rays for a living. And I had a really great career. I had the beautiful home. I had the husband and the son, and was, you know, the thinnest I'd ever been, and was still pretty miserable inside, which was befuddling because I was professing and I had all the things. So I started trying to figure out why was I still pretty miserable, and through a lot of different methods, I started having therapy. I started having flashbacks of being sexually abused as a child. Until that time, I had blocked it out and had forgotten. I'd not forgotten, but my body remembered, but my brain didn't. And so that started my journey of leaving the belief system, because even when I was a worker, I knew how predators had been treated, and that was to move them, or they could still go to meeting, or there was a lot of different ways. And I knew as a victim myself that that would be something I would feel unsafe in, and the way things were being handled, I felt unsafe as a victim survivor. And so that's when I started stopping attending. And so in the 4 years since then, I've done a lot of work on gaining my voice again, being able to speak up for myself, and even just sharing that I am a victim survivor. That's a lot. It takes a lot of gumption to share that. And so to anyone who has shared that, I honor you, because I know the courage it takes to do that. And it's not just us here, not just Abby and Selkie and myself, but there's others too. And so I honor you. And so when Brewergate happened and the Dean Brewer letter came out and Selkie and Evan reached out, I just was like, I've come so far in my own personal journey of gaining my own voice back. I felt like I could really advocate for people who didn't have that freedom yet, didn't have that they weren't just there yet in their journey. And so I felt super strongly like we need to give these people a voice. We need to be able to stand up for them and stand up for ourselves, and also all my family that's still in, and my nieces and nephews and their children. And so super thrilled to be here, super thrilled to work with such an amazing team, including Tierney and Beth, who's here. And anyways, that's it for me for now. On to you, Abby.
Hi, thank you I wish you would have taken 30 more seconds, because I was like, I need to add this. So hopefully I finished it up in a way that I'm not going to be bumbling along. So I am Abby Prusak. I grew up going to meetings in the Pacific Northwest, Oregon, Idaho, Washington, all of them. I now live in Colorado. I am a survivor of sexual abuse as a child and as an adult. My husband and I stopped attending meetings in 2010, and generally kind of kept to ourselves for the next 12 or so years. In January of 2022, our friends asked if we would like to help them start a support group for people who no longer attend meetings for whatever reason. And so we started that, and there was a massive community that we didn't realize was out there, a massive community. And last March, when we caught wind of the letter about Dean Brewer that was not being shared as it really should have been, the other admins and I of our support group had the privilege / obligation as humans to use the tool that we had at our disposal, which at that point was 900 members of our group, to get it out there and light the match. And never foresaw what would happen next, but I've had the privilege of very, very suddenly finding my voice in the way that feels extremely meaningful. I have been able to talk to many hundreds of victim survivors throughout this last year, and learn also very quickly what it means to support and validate and hold space for anyone who has survived trauma. And that has added a layer of meaning for sure to my life, really. It's a big deal. I still have lots of loved ones who do attend meetings, most of our families, and we care very, very deeply, obviously, about them being in a safe environment and having resources at their disposal to make sure that they are safe and empowered. And anyway, I feel pretty privileged to be a part of this organization, and hoping to ensure that for them and for future generations in a really, really meaningful, sustainable way. That was longer than I expected. So, but I think that's it.
It's amazing. And I never know what to say at this point, because how do you thank somebody for doing what the three of you have done? There are no words to capture it. I know that there would be no organization, there would be no impact without the three of you. And I'll say in particular why you're so valuable as I move into sort of what our organization is. But I also want to end that thought by quoting Diana Tanner, who is a professional we work with, who advises on some of our output, who is just an incredibly thoughtful person who works in the counseling space. And she has a quote that's surviving is bravery and everything else is personal choice. So I'm so grateful for the three of you, and I'm also just so grateful to every victim survivor who is here. And I don't just mean on this call. I mean those who have gone through the bravery of just surviving. I also want to just quickly note that you'll hear us use the phrase victim survivor, and I think that might be a little unfamiliar to some who have heard one term or the other. And I just want to explain that that choice is because we feel it's important for people to be able to identify for themselves, because for many people, victim is very much where they are, and for others, survivor is very much that. And for others yet, it's both of those things. Those are two different experiences and identities that some people hold together. And so we just want to offer that space for people to choose that for themselves. So we're here to celebrate an anniversary. Voices has been around for more than a year. And for those of you who are thinking about the timing, we're actually celebrating our anniversary now. Is it a week? A week ago was our anniversary?
Yeah, it's exactly a week ago, because all of the things are registered. Like I got all the receipts and everything and renewal reminders on the 26th.
Right. So those of you who are doing the math, that means Voices for the Truth. Our website, our first meeting happened 3 days after the Dean Brewer letter was first released on Abby's Facebook group, and became aware to the larger public. And on that first call, there were a couple dozen of us. We had no organization, we had no structure. We were a raggedy group who just wanted to do something and knew we needed to do something. And it's just amazing to me to take a step back and look back at that moment to how much we've grown as an organization, and just continue to be grateful for everyone who's contributed to that. From the outset, the idea behind this organization has always been exclusively victim survivor support. And so that means that we have no investigative arm, we have no legal arm, we have nothing that's focused particularly on religion, for example. We're not here to change people's belief systems. We're here because we believe that victim survivors have unique journeys to healing, and we want to facilitate that however we can. And as part of that, in the fabric of our organizational structure is a victim survivor centered model with our victim survivor advisory board at the top. It's also woven into our model that we are consensus based and community driven. And so we very much value two-way channels of communication. We're always so grateful for those of you who have joined our roundtables and our conversations to really tell us about what you're experiencing and what you're feeling. And we're also grateful for those who have joined in a more formal way. And I'll talk a little bit at the very end about opportunities to do so. But as part of that community-driven and consensus-based model, and also based on some of our understanding of the pitfalls of power abuse and the risks we all face. We also have opportunities for a democratic governance. And so I'd be happy to talk a little bit about how our advisory board is structured, but we're very eager to represent the perspectives of the community that we're trying to serve, and have people tell us what they need rather than to come and help and to say, here's what you need, based on our assumptions. So we're a year on, but we continue to grow, and we're looking forward to the coming year. I also want to give a shout out to the rest of our team. So now I'm going to hand it over to Tierney. I don't want you to be on camera the whole time without at least saying, hey, I won't put too much pressure on you to introduce yourself, but I did want to just let you say hello to the audience here. Sorry, I totally caught you off guard. We can't hear you at all. Tierney, there's always a tech issue. It's all right. I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about our other members, maybe while you try and get the mic going. So we have just an incredible team of people, and like I said, we're continuing to grow and always interested in people who are looking for ways to contribute. So on the line here we have Bev Bathis, who is our Director of Finance, who has just been an absolute lifesaver for some of the more technical aspects of finance that I am not well versed in at all. We also have Taylor Brown, who's our Director of Operations, who just helps things move forward. We have a lot of very thoughtful people who have a lot of energy and enthusiasm and passion, and Taylor helps translate that into meaningful action for our organization. We have Kayla Arnone, who is our Victim Survivor Empowerment Specialist, which is just such a critical role because, as we've said, that is something that we want to center in all of our work, all of our conversations, all of our education for our internal team and externally as well. I just want to double check finance, operations, education and prevention, and Tierney, if your mic is working. Otherwise, I'd be happy to brag about how incredible you've been for our organization myself. Oh no. Well, Tierney, I'll go ahead and do it. It would be my honor to talk about how important you've been.
Are you able to hear me now?
Oh, yes. Yes. Okay. All right. I'll let you. I was very excited to gas you up. Oh.
I am so grateful for all that started, and no? Okay. And I'm just so glad to be supporting and growing and building the support systems and education. And so my job is education and prevention. And I have learned so much. I've only been here since November. And that was actually thanks to my brother, Taylor Brown, who I'm sure Evan already talked about as I was dealing with whatever. And so it was his nudge that led me to join and to be a part of this wonderful organization. And I'm just so happy to be here and do that.
And we're so grateful to you, Tierney. All right, Selkie, I'm going to hand it over to you to start talking about the hotline.
Awesome. I apologize if you hear beeps and things. For some reason, my computer has decided that we do not do focus mode, and we are just going to play all of the alerts. So just naming that out loud. So as humans, our bodies, which include our minds, are essentially programmed, like their sole purpose is to survive and find safety, and be safe. And that means that people will always choose, like we will always choose our sense of safety over seeking out support or receiving support. If we have to make a choice between the two, we're always going to choose our own sense of safety. So that essentially means that if we are put in a position that we are required to do something that feels unsafe in order to get support, that support system is not actually accessible or available to us. So with that understanding, the reality is that we need more support systems that are available and accessible to more people. And that means breaking down every barrier that we have control over that might exist, that might make it feel unsafe for someone to access that support. That means that, like, really the first and foremost way that we remove those barriers to support is to also remove all expectations from victim survivors. That means that we're not asking anything of them in exchange for the support that we are offering to them. And that allows them access to support where they're not having to choose either between receiving support or maintaining their sense of safety. One of the reasons this is so important is that as victim survivors, we have gone through experiences that have removed our sense of control and agency and choice and safety. And Evan has already touched on this some in terms of talking about our general ethos as an organization of centering victim survivors. And this resource, the hotline, really is kind of like that's what it's about, is centering victim survivors, because when we center victim survivors, we can empower them to actually have control over their own healing journey. And I do kind of just want to touch on what it means to center victim survivors, because I think that that's a term that we all know really well, and we know what that looks like. And also, I don't know that it's put into practice or talked about a lot externally. So one of the primary pieces of centering victim survivors is like a space that centers victim survivors removes all expectations of them. So there is no need for a victim survivor to show up a certain way or say a specific thing or behave or feel or think or do anything. They get to show up however they show up. Like the only ask of them is to show up. That's it. There's no other expectation. There's also no judgment. So all the space is acceptance of the victim survivor. However they are showing up is accepted and not judged. There's no right or wrong way to show up. There's no metric by which you are being measured. There's no like wondering if, oh no, does the other person have feelings about how I'm feeling? It's just, this is how I feel, and it's accepted. Another piece of being victim survivor centered is having that space in which the only focus is on whatever the victim survivor needs. And having that kind of space gives safety and freedom so that victim survivors can express and share and question and feel anything and everything that is true to them and their lived experience. All of that is a lot easier said than done. It can be really difficult for all of us, especially those of us who have our own traumas, to actually remove our own wants and needs from the equation. And, you know, I think everybody on this call, we have done so much work to get to a place where we can do that. And also we acknowledge that we don't have the level of training to be able to do that completely consistently, or, you know, so along that same thought process is like the need for professionals with trauma-informed training, so that the caller gets to actually feel that complete sense of safety and lack of judgment. They get to focus on whatever it is that they need in the moment and not worry about how the other person on the end of, like the person on the other end of the phone might feel about it or think. And the responder, like the person picking up the phone, is also going to be focused on that same objective of supporting the victim survivor, whatever it is that they need. And another piece of it is just having, like, helping victim survivors get access to trained professionals who really understand trauma and crisis intervention, and, you know, are able to hold that space for them and provide that kind of support, which, you know, the trauma informed professionals and the victim survivor centered approach is something that, like, we hope will foster a sense of agency and hope and allow callers to actually start reclaiming their own well-being and dictating their own healing journey. So with that, I am going to hand it over to Abby to kind of share about those trauma-informed trained professionals that are running the hotline. So.
All right, so I'm just going to describe RAINN as it's the organization itself, and then go into more specifics about our RAINN connected hotline. So RAINN itself, it stands for Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. It is the leading organization for crisis support, support for people who have been sexually abused in the U.S. They operate the National Sexual Assault Hotline, as well as the Department of Defense Helpline and several other custom hotlines. They work with over 1,000 local sexual service providers to meet needs across the spectrum of what a victim survivor might need, like crisis intervention, legal assistance, mental health services, pretty much anything that a victim survivor could call in and need support finding. They have a connection to that. They're also a resource for people who may not be victim survivors themselves, but may be supporting victim survivors in their life. I have called the RAINN hotline several times this year when I just didn't really know where to turn, like what was the next thing to do, who to contact, where my resources were to get the person the help that I wanted to be able to provide them. And they've been a huge help every time. They also, one of their other big focuses is on education. So they have a wealth of educational resources on, if you call, and on their website, both for victim survivors and for the general public, all from all angles. Their hotline services themselves are confidential within the bounds of mandatory reporting requirements. The operators have gone through a lot of training. They have a lot of experience being compassionate, dealing with anything that may come their way, professional, trauma-informed, and like Selkie mentioned earlier, at no point is a victim survivor obligated to share or do anything. It is a completely survivor-led experience. And if at any point during the call a victim survivor were to say, actually, I'm done talking about this, that's fine. And so, yeah, that's the general RAINN itself. And then I think Jeannie is going to tell you more about our specific hotline.
So the super cool thing about the Voices hotline that RAINN operates for us is that all of the offerings that are available that through the RAINN hotline are available also through our hotline, but they are focused on the truth, the beliefs that are within the belief system. So like they met with us, we had multiple conversations and via email and this kind of face-to-face, going over all the different contexts that we could think of in our lifetimes of experience so far that could be applicable to the people who are answering the phone line. So like, so if someone were to call and say, my elder is abusing me, they would actually understand what that means about a Sunday morning meeting or a Wednesday night meeting elder. Or if they were to say it was the overseer who is doing XYZ, that we've actually educated them on all the terminology that we could think of, so that they could understand not only the structure, but also the power dynamics, because the power dynamics also are like a different type of trauma as well as the sexual abuse that a person might be disclosing or seeking support for someone else who's experienced it. So we taught them about like what's a worker and what's an overseer and what's meeting and union meeting and convention, all of these different terminologies, but then also like I said about the power dynamics, not just overseers but workers and elders and the male female power dynamic. We went over that with them so that people could have when they call, they wouldn't have to explain. Like, I don't know if any of y'all have tried to do any therapy, but you go to therapy and the first several sessions are just trying to explain all about what this belief system, how it's structured. And so yeah, the people who are calling our hotline aren't going to have to do that because we have educated them in that way. We've also taught them about like different doctrines that are taught in the truth, in the belief system that are relevant to what these people may have experienced, and different traditions, just talking about, long hair and dresses, and so that they're not, so that the people who are calling, the victim survivors and also their support, are understood, so they're not having to explain themselves. So not only have we taught them all about the truth and all the accoutrements that come with it, but it's also connected. We have worked with RAINN to connect to truth-specific resources, such as regional therapy funds. We're working with several therapy funds in different regions of the United States who are wanting to offer money to help with therapy. And so we have connected RAINN with those different therapy funds. So like, if a victim survivor is calling from Oregon and they say, I need resources and support in Oregon, then they would get that. But then also the RAINN operator would be able to say, hey, there is a therapy fund connected, and they would be able to start you down the path of how to start down that path, I guess. Also, any of you, like, this is where we're working together as a team and the communication is both directions. If any of y'all have any information about additional resources that you feel like would be beneficial for us to tell RAINN, please let us know. Email us at info@voicesforthetruth.org. We would love that. Also, I think, Selkie, correct me if I'm wrong, our website has a list of the resources that yes, Selkie, thank you. Our website has a list of the resources that we have connected RAINN with, so you can see what we've told them.
That is not actually on the website yet.
They love that. That's not accurate. Delete from the script.
It is in the works.
Okay. I'm
Yeah.
like, I know I've seen it
So you're
somewhere.
not misremembering. It's just not there
Okay.
yet. It says
Okay.
the web developer designer person.
They are doing amazing. So I'm going to kick it over back to Silky so they can describe what it's like to call our hotline.
Yeah. So I want to start out by managing expectations about like the wait time. Because I know firsthand what it's like to be calling and expecting an immediate answer of like, hello, this is the Voices for the Truth hotline. How can I help you? And I know that because like day one, I think it was Abby, Jeannie, Evan, and I were like, let's call and see what the experience is like. And then we were on hold for like, I think it was like 45 minutes. And we were like, oh, this is such a bummer. And honestly, it's a totally reasonable expectation that we would have a wait time, and we just had not recognized that. And so I feel like I would like to share that information with you, that if you call and you don't get an immediate answer, it's okay. Evan, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I also don't want to misrepresent it on the other side. I think it was about 14 minutes.
Oh, well, it felt like 45. Listen, my sense of time is really terrible.
And I'll preview for those of you who are listening, part of the relationship between RAINN and ourselves is that we do not ever get any identifiable information from them. However, we do get information about the kinds of services they're offering, some of the questions they're getting, other things, that resources they might need for us. But one of those pieces is the average wait time that a caller experiences. So coming up next Monday, we will receive the first of those monthly reports, and we'll be able to tell you exactly what the average wait time looks like. But I would set the expectations at like 10 to 15 minutes, not
I think we figured out why the Townsend family was always late to meeting y'all. All right, so back on track. Right, so managing expectations on wait time. There may be a wait time. It may not actually be 45 minutes. Hopefully it's not. But yeah, I just wanted to put that out there because I know what it's like to like work yourself up and like get the courage to do the thing, and then you don't get the immediate response that you were expecting, and you're like, ah. So, yeah, I just wanted to share that. So when they pick up, it will be a support specialist service, support service specialist. That will pick up the phone, and they will really just start talking to the caller to get an understanding of what their current situation and needs are. And it's a little bit difficult to say what it's like to call in the phone line in general, just because, you know, every human is different and every victim survivor is different, and we all have different needs and different experiences. And so there's not going to be like one specific, like, this is exactly what you will experience when you call. I also just want to say there's no right or wrong way to show up. And there's no criteria that you have to meet in order to call in. So with that out of the way, the responder who picks up the phone will provide immediate emotional support and assistance. They will really be there to validate and honor and hear the experience and needs of the victim survivor. Again, it is victim survivor led. And depending on the needs of the victim survivor who calls in, the specialist can direct that caller to other resources outside of RAINN. I think Jeannie and Abby both touched on this, of like they can direct them to other groups that can help with reporting or can help with their therapy funds and assistance. They can also connect people to local crisis and victim survivor support groups and resources like that. Yeah. And then Abby, you're going to talk about how Voices is involved.
I'm kind of going to, because Evan beat me to the punch for half of my content. So you got the general outline. All of the direct communication with victim survivors, all of that interaction is handled exclusively by the operators of the hotline, who we do not have any back and forth relationship with, specifically with those operators. The calls don't come through us. We don't know who's calling. We don't know when they're calling. We don't know why they're calling. We do not know anything about the content of their conversations. The only information that we receive is the anonymous compilation that Evan mentioned each month, that says how many people called in, the average wait time, the number of mandated reports RAINN had to make, if any. Nothing about those mandated reports, just purely how many, if they had to make any. And then a general overview of any concerns or suggestions they may have, anything that they've noticed that are gaps in our care and resources, or maybe needs of the community that we didn't think of, because we don't know what we don't know. And so we can fill in those gaps or find education or resources for anything that may be slipping through the cracks. I think that's it for that.
So now it's me. Thank you. So talking about where we're going forward with the hotline, currently the funding for the hotline is through the middle of this year. We have funding for that, and however, we are committed to providing this resource for, you know, the foreseeable future. Unfortunately, I mean, we would like to get to the point where child sexual abuse and sexual assault doesn't happen anywhere ever, and especially in a religious setting. And also, we recognize the fact that it probably will. So this hotline is very much needed, and we would like to continue providing that long term. So not only are we wanting to provide this resource long term, but if funding allows, there's other services that RAINN can provide, which can include 24-hour service. Like right now, we're just 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern time. So just 12 hours, we could open that up to 24 hours. There's also a text chat option. I mean, that would open it to millennials and younger, which is that demographic definitely needs support in this area as well. And so that's another option. And there's also Spanish language services that we would love, because the population of that language is massive in this country. And then also therapy, like the therapy lines. There's just an endless possibility of resources that we would like to be available if funding allows. So we just want to reassure you, we're not just like running this hotline like a flash in the pan. Like we're here to stay, and the hotline is here to stay. Victim survivors need the support, confidential, trauma informed, and yeah, we're here to stay. And now I'm going to hand it over to Evan of how y'all could get involved.
Yeah, I appreciate the note you ended on too there, Jeannie. And I just want to reiterate, like I started at the top talking about this idea of hope. And one of the things that is top of our mind is making sure that hope is a sustainable thing for the victim survivors and the community we serve. And so that is certainly a very large piece of whether or not this hotline is successful, is if it continues moving forward. And it's not going to move forward without you all and your support. So the first thing I want to mention is actually the most important piece, which is the way you can get involved by sharing this with others. This hotline is only as useful as it is known about. If there are people who can use a resource like this but cannot get access to it, then it is not a useful resource. And we do know that it has a number of survivors, victim survivors who have already called in, and we'll be sharing some of these details as we get the official reports in from RAINN. But the need is almost incalculable for people who could use a service like this. So if you haven't seen it in the regional group you're in on CCF, I would love if you would post it. If you haven't seen it already in the Facebook group you're in, or maybe you're on another, I've lost track of all the types of social media that are available right now, WhatsApp and Telegram and all of those, just sharing it really does go a long way. With that, I also do want to make it clear that part of honoring victim survivors is honoring victim survivor support, choice. And so as you're sharing this resource, it's very important that you let people know that this is an option available to them, but never push it or try to force people to reach out to it if it is not the choice that they're looking for right now. The second way that you can really be involved is giving us feedback. I want to reiterate that this is community-based and consensus-driven, and that all of our communication strives to be two-way, and we can only serve a community if we understand where the community is and what the community needs. And we really consider the larger community to be a part of the Voices organization, even in that informal sense. And I'm just going to preview something that Tierney's been working really hard on. One of our primary goals for the fiscal year 2024 is creating spaces and opportunities for all of you who have already been working so hard and already been thinking so hard about this to better coordinate rather than duplicate effort. And so opportunities for you all to learn from one another and for us to learn from you are very valuable to us. So please open those lines of communication, reach out to us with suggestions, with questions, just to make us aware of resources that you're working on. We would love to be a part of that conversation. The next way is to consider volunteering. This is a lot of work. It has been a long year for all of us on this team. It's been a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of hours of conversation, and we're really proud of the work that we've done. But there's so much left to be done, and the more hands on deck that we have, the better. That being said, our mission is victim survivor support, and we encourage you to do that in the ways that are best for you, and also to draw healthy boundaries. So, you know, if you're sitting down and having conversations with loved ones, if you're making an effort to protect those who are vulnerable, to support those who have suffered harm, you're already helping contribute to our mission, and we urge you to continue to do that. And let us know if we can support you in doing that, because we would really love to. And the last one is funds. This hotline is run by professionals. These are paid people who have training, and a resource of this kind is not cheap, but we also are not willing to compromise on the care that we give victim survivors. So if you want to help be a part of offering that uncompromised professional care, we would really be grateful for anything that you're able or willing to give. There are opportunities for one-time donations or monthly donations. And I'll just say as well that nobody's getting paid on this call or in the Voices organization. And so any money that you would contribute does go directly to victim survivor care. And that's a priority we continue to have. Now I'm going to hand it over to Tierney, if Mike allows, to talk through our Q&A process. Mike does not allow. Tierney, if you want, I do have the slides pulled up, so I could screen share. So we're gonna do it a little differently, and I want to thank you in advance for taking these extra steps for us. This is just the most efficient way for us to have a presentation. Again, there will be future town halls and conversations like we've hosted before, where we're really interested in seeing your faces and hearing your voices. But just for the sake of time and focus, we're going to have a virtual Q&A. And so let me just show you a little bit how to do that using these lovely slides that Tierney's created. I can't see you all. Can somebody on the call unmute and let me know if you can see this?
Yep, we can see it.
Great, thank you. Okay, so the way you're going to do this is you're going to look for this emblem, which is three symbols: a triangle, a square, and a circle. So on the left here, you are seeing the computer screen, and if you're joining us from a laptop, you should be able to see that triangle, square, and circle at the bottom right of your screen. If you're joining us from a phone, what you're going to see is three dots at the bottom right corner of your screen, which is shown over here on the right. If you're on a laptop, after you've clicked those three symbols, you will see a Q&A option, which should be the third one down. And if you're on mobile, here is where you'll see the three symbols of the triangle, square, and circle. And then you'll hit ask a question or hit Q&A if you're in mobile. And then also if you're in mobile, you'll hit ask a question, but it will be in a different spot. So I'm just going to back up a little bit and leave this on screen here for a moment while I chat, so people can find that hopefully. Again, what you're looking for is the triangle, square, and circle symbol. Once you click that, you'll be able to type in your question. And we'd love to hear what questions you have or comments you have. So yes, while people are asking questions, I'll just reiterate the key points of what we talked about today, which is Voices for the Truth has organized a RAINN operated hotline, RAINN being the Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network. That hotline is voiced exclusively by professionals who are trained with at minimum 40 hours of support specialist, trauma-informed, victim survivor-centered training. In addition to that training, they have also received training from us in the context, culture, etc. of the truth, what it means to be a member, what it means to be an ex-member. And with those two things combined, they have the understanding of the situation of the callers that they need to be able to guide them through the steps that they would best suit what support the victim survivor is looking for in that moment. These are not people that we interact with, the victim survivors or the support specialists who are answering the call. We receive anonymized information to help us improve the services that we're offering. Also, as we move into questions, I just want to acknowledge one question that often comes up is, how is this different from the AFTT hotline? And so I'll just say a word about that. So the AFTT hotline is managed by Cynthia Lyles, who is a private investigator. And when I spoke with Natalie, who's the executive director of AFTP a couple of weeks ago, she confirmed that the 3 people who answer that hotline are Cynthia Lyles, the private investigator, Lauren Rose, and Natalie Bolin herself. And of those, I believe Natalie has victim survivor trauma-informed training. And so all that to say, like, we continue to encourage victim survivors to find the resources that best support the needs that they have and that best fit their healing journey. But yes, this hotline is in no way intended to capture information or serve investigation or legal pursuits. That being said, one of the resources that the victim survivor support specialists who answer the Voices for the Truth crisis hotline can direct callers to is the FBI hotline, local law enforcement resources. So if a victim survivor is looking for an opportunity to report, that is an option available to them. So I'm going to stop screen sharing. Oh, maybe I'm not. Great.
I just discovered a fatal flaw in our system. Nobody can tell us if they can't find the Q&A section.
How about this?
Maybe they could raise their hand if they're having an issue with it.
Yeah. I think you guys can send like emoji reactions. So I guess everybody send like a thumbs down or a chin scratchy.
Angry react.
Oh yay, somebody found the Q&A section. Thanks, Mike.
If it's simpler, I'm also going to drop our Facebook in the chat. If people want to message our Facebook page, we can check those as well.
Thank you guys for confirming. It was just so quiet, and I was like, oh no, I am convinced that nobody can find this section, and everybody's like, we're trying to tell you we want to ask questions, but we can't communicate with you.
We just covered everything.
Yeah.
I don't know where people are calling in from. That's not entirely true. I do know some of you and where you're calling from. But I know here on the East Coast, hello from Boston, everyone. It's close to bedtime.
Hey, I'm in mountain time and it's close to bedtime here too, so.
Yeah, while we give a little more space for people to ask questions if they want to, I'll say a little bit more about some of our goals for the upcoming year. This was a huge milestone for us and something that we've been working on for most of the year, a resource that we knew was needed and we had heard repeatedly was very important for those who needed the support most. As we move into the next year, like I mentioned, we're really interested in trying to coordinate rather than duplicate effort. And so what that means is we're trying to bring together many of the people who are already spending a lot of time thinking a lot, have a lot of great ideas, into convening spaces for them to have that discussion, to maybe to coordinate effort again and share learning. Some of those aspects may include therapy funds, but they may also include our education pieces as we move forward. I don't want to spoil too much, but we have big plans, and this is not at all the end of the work that we're doing.
Kathleen asked the link where we can provide financial support. I just dropped that link in the comments. It's just voicesforthetruth.org/donate.
Great, thank you, Kathleen. And I'm seeing Mike ask, what was the most unexpected thing you encountered in the process of creating the hotline?
I'm laughing because I immediately remember they gave us a phone number that was wild, and we were like, this is a wild phone number. Like, it was launch day, and the number that RAINN assigned to us, we were like, this cannot be the number. You're gonna have to go back and change it. I remember the day of being like, of all the wrenches I expected to encounter, that was not one. I did not expect to have to go back to RAINN and be like, no, we need a new number.
I think we're gonna have to be more specific, because that just leaves a lot of curiosity. But there were three sixes in a row in our number, and we were like, yeah, it was very surprising. Here I was set up with like a serious answer, like, oh, one thing that surprised me is how long it takes to get a professional resource like this set up. Agonizingly long amount of time. But Selkie's answer was really the right one.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we initiated conversations in August, September. Our first outreach to RAINN was more than half a year ago. So yeah, it is frustrating, because when a crisis is happening, we want to move fast, but our priority is also like moving with care, because sometimes moving fast creates more harm than good. But we're grateful it's finally out there in the world.
And what was most unexpected wasn't necessarily just in encountering in the process of creating the hotline. It's been in the process of creating Voices for the Truth. Is I've learned what real friends behave like in crisis from these amazing humans that are on the screen with me. You know, just allowing me to be all of me, and all my big feelings and frustrations, and supporting, and like, I've learned some amazing questions to ask from these humans. Like, I thought I knew what being a friend was, and I did know some things, but I learned a lot more, and that was unexpected. Like, because I thought I had good friends, and I have, but now I also have more amazing good friends in these humans.
What do you need?
I love you, Dean.
Yeah.
I love you all. I actually, since apparently nobody has any questions and we answered everything so well.
We're amazing like that.
Yeah.
I also, before you say that, the question line is still open.
Yes.
So if people do have questions, we're not closing the curtain.
No. No, I was saying more, since there is I have the opportunity. One of the things that we have always really strived, no, don't like the way that sounds, that felt like an awkward word. Striven to do is model the type of care and support that victim survivors deserve to everyone in our organization. That, like, we treat each other with that level of respect and care, and accepting whole, authentic human beings who get to have bad days, or get to say, I can't come to this meeting tonight because I need to go take a bath and take care of myself, you know, that we show up for each other as whole human beings. And I think just having worked in the corporate world, you know, people can scream until they're blue in the face, take care of yourself. But if they aren't taking care of themselves and they aren't modeling that behavior, then it's not safe for you to take care of yourself. So I think, like, a huge part of what works about our organization is that we do really prioritize whole human beings, and we treat each other that way, which allows us to also treat others who come into contact with us as whole human beings.
You're muted, Evan.
Evan, yeah.
but
You just got a cough.
are you taking it? Are you taking this question or?
Yeah, I'm happy to take this question from Jill Uveld. I'm sorry, I probably didn't pronounce that right. The question is, do you liaise with AFTT all around victim reporting? How do you manage reports of CSA and the current investigation with the FBI? Yeah, it's a great question. So I just want to reiterate some of what has already been said about the hotline, which is that when victim survivors call, there is no expectation placed upon them. They get to make choices in that call about what support they're looking for and best suits their needs. Now, that being said, of course, some of those people are going to say, what I need right now is I need to be able to report this to law enforcement. And so there is an opportunity for them to do so, and we direct them to the FBI as well as to local law enforcement. And the other case in which law enforcement might be involved, or when victim reporting might happen, is that all of the victim survivor support specialists who answer the hotline are mandated reporters. So for those of you who aren't familiar, if they hear of correct me if I'm wrong, team, but I believe it's a crime or the threat of a crime. If people are in immediate danger, then they are required by law to report that. So that is the other case in which the person who is answering the hotline would report that to law enforcement. And again, we would receive information about when that happened, but we would not receive details about how or if that happened. So, anything more?
I just wanted to give a note about mandated reporting. It's pretty nuanced and it can vary from state to state. But my understanding is that it largely falls upon whether or not either children or elderly people are in immediate danger. And like Evan said, a piece of the hotline is that if I were a victim survivor and I needed to call in and I wanted to talk about a situation in which it's very possible there is active harm occurring, there is no pressure or expectation or questions of the victim survivor to share any identifying details whatsoever. So like Evan said, the victim survivor really gets to choose exactly what their process is through that.
I believe mandatory reporting includes generally any crime that has any abuse that has happened to a current minor. Once they're an adult, all of that is their choice. But I believe if the minor is currently a minor at any rate, generally that ticks the box for mandatory reporting, as well as imminent danger to yourself or others. And there are cases where a minor has been harmed and there is reason to believe that other minors or that minor are in imminent danger from that same abuser. Yeah, like Sophie said, if that information isn't given, obviously there's only so much they can report, and they're not going to be like, you have to tell me who that is, because that's not trauma informed or victim survivor centered.
Yeah, sorry. I actually wanted to touch on that again, Abby, what you were saying of like being trauma informed. And I just want to like circle back to one of the things that I said, and one of my first things that I was talking about is like, as humans, we will always protect our sense of safety over receiving support. And I know that there's a lot of desire for like reporting and alerting people and things like that. And that is so valid. And also, we cannot force victim survivors to be in a space where they're not It's just if we are trying to force that, then we are essentially removing access to support from a huge number of victim survivors. So I just wanted to circle back to that as kind of an explanation for like, this is why there is not that kind of reporting aspect.
Yeah, I just want to name that specifically, Selkie. Thank you. Kind of reiterate what you're saying is one of the needs that we were hearing about and feeling is people did not seek out the support services that were available, largely because the investigation piece was at odds with the support that they needed and were seeking. And that's why we're very intentional about keeping those things separate to make sure that the door is as wide open as it can be for victim survivors. Maybe I'll end with a question of what are you excited about most for the future of Voices for the Truth? What about when we're celebrating our next anniversary next year?
Untapped potential, man. I mean, like, there's so many amazing things, and like enlarging our community. I mean, I don't want people to be victim survivors, but like, we are amazing humans, and so other amazing humans are going to join with us, and I'm excited to see who that is and the community that we build. And I could go on forever, but it's somebody else's turn. Or not, it's fine.
I can go. The first thing that popped into my head is like finally meeting y'all in real life. That's gotta happen. And yeah, Jeannie, like you said, there's like, I think we have really big goals and things in the works, and all of that gets really like overwhelming doing the actual work and the logistics. And also, like, we've already done it once with the hotline, and we have a like an incredible support system, and that support system is growing, and we are connecting with more and more community members like every single day. And yeah, I'm excited.
I kind of missed what you said, so I'm probably going to say the same thing because a child walked in and I was like, no, I know. But if you said something like community, that's the same thing I meant. This last year has like blown my mind as far as what community, the potential that we all had for community. People in every area of all of this. People who had a shared experience with meetings that no longer attended, people who currently attend meetings, people who have family in meetings and who may not be in meetings, and vice versa. Everybody has a new experience of community this year. And like, it's been mind-blowing. Like you said, even in our little organization family, like, I have a new experience of community, something that I hadn't navigated before. So I'm hoping, like, I'm excited to see that go in more directions. I don't know what that looks like I said earlier, we don't know what we don't know. So like, I don't know what I'm looking forward to because I probably won't know it till I see it. But I hope that that's part of it.
I think that's amazing and the perfect note to end on, because I want to piggyback off of that to use the language that they always use at work and work calls, to say that, you know, we're here again to share information about the hotline, but we're here for a celebration, and we very much include all of you whose faces are not appearing on camera right now, all of you who are in the chat and asking questions, who are just listening in. We include you in that celebration because, yes, we could not have done this without one another, without the advisory board and our incredible team of director level volunteers, our volunteer staff. But we just couldn't have done it without you all continuing to show up, to continue giving time and space and answering our questions and asking yours. And we hope that whatever your involvement has been in Voices so far, that this is just the beginning. And we really look forward to connecting. With that being said, it is definitely bedtime for Jeannie and I, and I imagine for some listening in. So thank you again, and please follow us on Facebook for more updates, but we're also in CCF, and you have our email in the chats. And we appreciate you all so much. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.